Spring into a Cherry Hill Volvo and experience an automotive retailer with a passion to do what is right. Stop by Cherry Hill Volvo for the attention and respect you deserve. I am Judith Krupnick, president of Cherry Hill Volvo. Visit Cherry Hill Volvo for a fabulous pre-owned Volvo. Low finance rates to qualified buyers, a pre-owned Volvo like new, an absolutely incredible Volvo with an unlimited mileage warranty from the original in-service state. Unlimited mileage. The previously enjoyed Volvos at Cherry Hill Volvo are like new. Allow our team to share their knowledge and passion for the brand with you. Allow the Cherry Hill Volvo team to introduce you to an unparalleled purchasing and maintenance experience.
Now, the revolution will be broadcast. This is the next generation of talk. Now, this is 60 minutes of non-stop talk with Rich Zeoli.
What happened with Officer Brian Sicknick, the Capitol Police officer who died after the events of January 6th? What happened? What's the truth? Will we know? We do now. Why didn't we know before? Good morning. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. 855-839-1210. I'm very happy to be with you this morning as we discuss all the issues of the day, including, by the way, the verdict in the Chauvin murder trial, which obviously will have an extensive analysis for you as the show progresses as well. But I have to address this because it's really frustrating to me that we were told by people like Joe Scarborough that this Capitol Police officer had his head bashed in by a fire extinguisher. We were told this over and over and over again. And what I don't understand is how that lie was able to just absolutely percolate out there and nobody was able to stop it by giving what actually happened to him. The Washington Post reported Monday, more than 3 months after the death of New Jersey native U.S. Capitol Police officer Brian Sicknick, that Sicknick died of natural causes and did not have any external or internal injuries. The findings of D.C.'s chief medical examiner and months of speculation surrounding Sicknick's death, they've led to questions, though. Questions like, how did the media get this so wrong? Why was Joe Scarborough allowed to go out there and lie day after day that they watched him get his head bashed in with a fire extinguisher? Now, there's Glenn Greenwald, who went on with Tucker Carlson the other night. Glenn Greenwald is a liberal. And I mean that with all respect. Because we need more liberals like Glenn Greenwald. He's a classical liberal. He is not this modern-day woke progressive socialist masquerading as a liberal. He's an actual liberal. And Glenn Greenwald can't stand censorship, much like me, cannot stomach it. He actually quit the very, very news organization he founded because they were trying to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. So Greenwald was on with Tucker Carlson the other night discussing this case, and I think this matters. First of all, this guy's from Jersey, he's a Capitol Police officer, but this is about the media pushing a narrative. This is about the government hiding the truth from us. All these things. Cut 6.
So there are moments in journalism when you find out, even if you're acting in good faith, that you were wrong. Like there actually weren't weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one of those moments. They told us something that is now provably untrue. How do they respond to this new fact?
They ignore it. Look, this is 48 hours after their entire 2 months long claim about Russia paying bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers completely fell apart too when the government admitted there was very little evidence for it. None of them went on the air and apologized or accounted for how they got it wrong. And they're not going to do it here because they've trained their audiences to want to be lied to. And their audiences don't want them to go and say, we got this story wrong. They're just going to move on. They're going to ignore it. And then they're going to wonder why nobody trusts them. And the last point I want to just make quickly, Tucker, is these are the same people who are taking the lead in demanding that the internet be censored, that ordinary citizens be censored on the grounds that they, ordinary citizens, are disseminating disinformation. Nobody spreads more disinformation than those media outlets and those people who you just showed in those video clips leading into this segment.
You know, there's a couple of other things, too, that I think are important to note about this. And that beyond just the media, once again, just totally getting it wrong, and the narrative and everything else, is that the government also was lying about this. 14 news organizations are suing to unseal camera footage showing the alleged assaults on Officer Sicknick. Now, the Capitol Police, you have to understand, they're part of Congress, all right? So the department itself is exempt from the Federal Freedom of Information Act. You can't put in a public records request. You can't get an incident report. The kind of records you could do for any other police department in the country, can't do that with them. Now, autopsy reports are also confidential in the District of Columbia. Like some states, for example, reporters, journalists, Dawn, back me up on this point, can go and get a medical examiner's report, right?
Yes. Sometimes it's tougher than other times. Sometimes you have to file Freedom of Information, acts and all of that. But yeah, that should be public record.
News outlets and press freedom groups went to court. You remember that 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas that we still don't have any idea what happened there? Like, it's still one of those great mysteries. They filed Freedom of Information Acts in that to try to disclose autopsy reports, get autopsy reports and that sort of thing. But in D.C., this stuff is kept private. And so, what's amazing is that on January 8th, the Associated Press reported, quote, during the struggle at the Capitol, Sicknick, 42, was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher, 2 law enforcement officials said. The officials could not discuss the ongoing investigation publicly and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. That's a word I can never say.
Anonymity.
Thank you. I should get that on my little soundboard. The same day, the Justice Department released a statement from Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen. And what that statement said was, Officer Sicknick succumbed last night to the injuries he suffered defending the U.S. Capitol against the violent mob who stormed it on January 6th. Here's how the New York Times reported it, January 15th. Law enforcement officials initially said Mr. Sicknick was struck with a fire extinguisher, but weeks later, police sources and investigators were at odds over whether he was hit. Medical experts have said he did not die of blunt force trauma, according to one law enforcement official. So the BS was spread early on. The government was not giving the media what it asked for. The other outlets that actually wanted to find the truth and not just push an agenda. Capitol Police were not giving stuff out. In fact, the public was left to basically listen to people like Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe going, Mika, I watched that video of this man getting his head bashed in, but with a fire extinguisher from so-called back the blue, cop-loving, MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters as they bash this man's head in with a fire extinguisher. Did not happen. Did not happen. It was a lie. A lie, a lie, a lie. But it serves an agenda. So you push it. That's what you do. It's shameful, really is shameful. 855-839-1210 is the number, 855-839-1210. Now, Dawn, your reaction to the media coverage of the Chauvin trial, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, what's interesting is, again, by omission. So the coverage was getting people's reaction, and a lot of the reaction was emotional. In Philadelphia, there was an article and there were some stories about black business owners, which I praise this coverage because the black business owners were saying, look, we're relieved that there's no rioting, but we hope in the future people don't riot as a form of freedom of expression. So I would say that's a good example of good coverage showing the complexities, of the situation. But in general, not much analysis. For example, when the president came out, imagine if it were a different president, such as the last president, and there wasn't much analysis that, or at least I didn't see it, of Biden coming out. And to your point, saying that, he's really adding fuel to a fire.
He took a gigantic 5-gallon gasoline container and poured it all over and then lit a match right on top of it is what he did.
Yeah, so
it started with Kamala Harris, too,
yes.
the vice president. I mean, she came out and spoke first about it, and then Biden kind of re-emphasized what she had to say, and I think they did that deliberately, but I don't know.
Yeah.
She spoke first, obviously. No, it's good. I'm glad you pointed that. Is that cut
right.
16? Is that what that is?
Yes, yeah, because in the clip that we have from Biden, he said, I reiterate what the vice president said, but do you want to hear what Kamala
let's
said?
play it.
Okay.
Today, we feel a sigh of relief. Still, it cannot take away the pain. A measure of justice isn't the same as equal justice. This verdict brings us a step closer, and the fact is, we still have work to do. We still must reform the system. Last summer, together with Senator Cory Booker and Representative Karen Bass, I introduced the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This bill would hold law enforcement accountable and help build trust between law enforcement and our communities. This bill is part of George Floyd's legacy. The President and I will continue to urge the Senate to pass this legislation, not as a panacea for every problem, but as a start. This work is long overdue. America has a long history of systemic racism.
Oh, here we go. America has a long history of systemic racism. So, again, this is what happens now. They'll take this case. Justice was served. The man was found guilty, but they'll take this case, and then they'll use it to advance their agenda and to push their bills. Excuse me. Not only with an absolute federal takeover of local police departments, which is what they really want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal, is to basically federalize the police so that everybody's a Capitol Police officer. You know what I mean? It's the same idea, that you don't have your little borough or town municipal police department anymore. They're all under the purview of the federal government. They would love that. They would love that, by the way. There's no doubt in my mind about that. This act is the first step towards that. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. Because it basically regulates what cops can do in situations. You don't want the federal government in on that. That's not something they should be involved in. But they want to be involved in it. Police powers are the state power, not a federal power. Remember, in our system of federalism, the state is responsible for police powers, not the federal government. The federal government's powers are supposed to be dealing with other countries. But we have allowed the federal government to get so big, and there's so many federal law enforcement officers, and they all have their own departments and agencies and guns and badges and shields and swords and vans and everything else. I mean, there's so many of them. And they want to grow that even more, by the way. And they would love to take your local police department and then make it part of that. And again, it's using systemic racism as the argument to be able to advance any agenda that they want. The problem is, if you turn around and say there is no such thing as systemic racism, you're called what? A racist. This is the game that they play. So you have to turn around. If you're, in woke corporate America or something else, you go, oh, yeah, we want to do our part to end systemic racism, too. What can we do? So we'll jump on board with the hashtag and whatever else you want to do. But ultimately, what they also want to do to end systemic racism, ask Bernie Sanders what he wants to do. Bernie Sanders' prescription for ending systemic racism is taking half of Jeff Bezos' money. Right? Taking more of your money. Taking more corporate money. All of that has fueled systemic racism. You realize if you can come to the point where you go, systemic racism, this is not about a cop, a former cop who did not follow department procedure. This is about systemic racism. You can take it away from Derek Chauvin and now make it about the bigger problem. Well, now you can use that to justify everything. And one of those things is all of the liberal, progressive, socialist utopia policies that they want to fix and to address, finally, systemic racism. You get it? So even though justice was served in this case, and the way justice is supposed to be served is one individual at a time, not good enough. Will never be good enough because they have an agenda to advance. 855-839-1210, 855-839-1210. Shut up, Siri. Stupid watch. This freaking Apple Watch, and now she can hear everything I say.
Yeah.
Go to bed, Siri.
It's funny to me because you're a big privacy guy.
I am.
But yet
trying to count my steps or whatever, you know, so I can lose my love handles.
Fitbit
my
does
COVID
that.
love handles.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't like all this creepy technology, listening to everything. Yep. You ever notice now if you start talking about something, you'll get an ad for it?
Yep.
Yes.
You notice that now?
Yes, all the time. It's really awful. It's really creepy that it does that.
I get ads for stuff I talk about on the show.
Yep.
I guarantee I'll get a Coca-Cola ad later today because I talked about Coke.
Of course.
But I do love the health aspect of it. If you're talking about health,
too.
if you have somebody in your family, you're trying to lose weight or diabetes or whatever, it does give you interesting studies and information about that. So there are pros and cons to it.
Well, that's true. There are pros and cons to it. But I think that, well, it seems like the genie's out of the bottle on this. How many commercials are we running on the station telling people to tell their smart speaker to play
Yes.
WPHT,
Yes.
right?
Yes, download the Odyssey app and play WPHT.
Do your corporate shillism. Go ahead.
No, it's a when we changed the name, we upgraded the app, and I do think the new Odyssey app is a lot slicker than the previous one. That's not no. Rich is so annoyed at me right now. I'm telling you what I think. It's a cooler name, and it's a better app.
What is that?
Caddyshack. Thanks for nothing.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for
nothing.
nothing.
Oh, my gosh. Some of these things are going to have to be taken off, but in the meantime, they're fun.
No, senor! No,
Oh, my
senor!
God.
No,
Wow.
senor!
That is-
No,
yeah,
senor!
I'm going to play that to
No,
your little
senor!
corporate shilling right there.
Sorry.
Listen, Dawn knows jewelry because women love diamonds. Am I right, Dawn? They
Women
love diamonds. And
love
Lee Pavorsky,
diamonds.
he just texted me, too. He goes, 3 days off, question mark. I said 2 days off. I'm taking 2 days off just to refresh my mental spirit and do other things, but also that. And he wants to know why. But it's not, you know what, Lee? You worry about serving the finest jewelry possible to people, and I'll worry about my time off. Right, Dawn?
Yes, that's right. I think that there's nothing better than diamonds as a gift. Like I said this year, I don't want flowers. I don't want, unless they're the Lee Pavorsky flowers that are like little blooms with diamonds set in them, like pave diamonds. That's the kind of flowers I want. So Lee Pavorsky, and he's my jeweler. He's the Zeoli jeweler, and this is the Zeoli collection. This features some amazing fashion-forward diamond necklaces, earrings, rings, and they are perfect. You're going to love them. You got to see them. So whether it's everyday wear or special occasions, these diamond necklaces are guaranteed to fit perfectly. Why? Because they have these adjustable lengths. You can't see it. It's invisible to everybody else, but they have a built-in way that you can make them perfect for your neckline. So whether you want it long or short, in other words. So I've picked out my faves, like the Amour Pave Diamond Heart Pendant. It is gorgeous, and it's one of a kind, just like your special lady in your life is one of a kind. And these are discounted just for you. So whether it's Mother's Day, maybe a wedding anniversary, maybe a push gift, maybe she just had a baby, hint, hint, or just an I love you gift, go to llpavorsky.com. All the studies show this pandemic has been rough on women, all women, and moms especially. So Lee is going to make this so easy for you. llpavorsky.com. You click on the big red Dawn's Faves Zeoli Collection button. You'll see the three of us, our picture there. You're going to see everything. Make a purchase right there on the website. It'll take you 5 minutes. And then Lee, he complimentary gift wraps it for you, and he ships it right to your doorstep. And Lee is awesome to work with. He's just a great guy. He's one of us. So you can call Lee with any jewelry questions you might have, or go see his beautiful showroom. llpavorsky.com. Book a no-obligation appointment. His number's right there on the site if you want to give him a call. Just do this. Do it now. Visit llpavorsky.com. Tell him Rich and Dawn sent you.
You're in the middle of 60 minutes of nonstop talk. The Rich Zeoli Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Now the question is, where does the trial of Chauvin go from here? What happens next? The appeal process is what happens next. That's where it goes from here. Now, I said at the start of the show today, I'm not surprised by the verdict. In fact, I told you yesterday, I think he's going to be found guilty. I think the prosecution did a good job in proving the case. For me, personally, I didn't watch the whole thing. And again, it doesn't matter if you do, because you're not a juror. You're not sitting there in the room seeing all the other things that you just can't capture on television. But what I thought was the most effective thing for the prosecution was using cops to testify against Chauvin. I thought that was the most effective thing because, again, police writ large were not on trial, as much as the left wants to make it that way. It was one individual, one former police officer was on trial. That's it. Not all cops. The left is going to pretend like it was about all cops and this was a guilty verdict on police. It was not. And I'm going to keep repeating that because you have to keep, in my opinion, please keep saying it. I always say my opinion because I don't want to tell you what to do. You're a smart person. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but if I could give you some advice, keep repeating that. This was about one cop, not police. This was not a guilty verdict against cops. One cop, one former cop. And I thought one of the most effective things the prosecution did was to have the chief testify. Here's why. So you're sitting in the jury box. They try to weed out people that are pro-police or anti-police, right? So you're in there. You're a reasonable person. You like cops. You don't want to defund the police. You think cops are good guys and good women, good men and women. But but this guy's on trial. What the prosecution had to do was to overcome the hurdle of you thinking that you were, in fact, sending a guilty verdict to all cops. Prosecutor said that in his closing arguments when he said, this is not about all police. I played that clip for you yesterday. And so then he brings the chief to testify, and the chief of police said this, cut 18.
As you reflect on Exhibit 17, I must ask you, is this a trained Minneapolis Police Department defensive tactics technique?
It is not.
Well, we read the departmental policy on neck restraints. Is this a neck restraint?
The conscious neck restraint by policy mentions light to moderate pressure. When I look at Exhibit 17, and when I look at the facial expression of Mr. Floyd, that does not appear in any way, shape, or form that is light to moderate pressure.
So is it your belief then that this particular form of restraint, if that's what we'll call it, in fact violates departmental policy?
I absolutely agree that violates our policy. Once Mr. Floyd, and this is based on my viewing of the videos, once Mr. Floyd had stopped resisting, and certainly once he was in distress and trying to verbalize that, that should have stopped. There's an initial reasonableness in trying to just get him under control in the first few seconds, but once there was no longer any resistance, and clearly when Mr. Floyd was no longer responsive and even motionless, to continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy, it is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
So that's the chief of police in uniform sitting there telling this to the jury. I think it's the most effective thing the prosecution did. You're hearing from the top cop saying he didn't follow procedure, he didn't follow policy. So that's a clear pass to the jury. Hey, this is a cop telling you this former cop did not follow procedure. So you're not indicting all cops. You're not saying all cops are guilty. I think it was a really brilliant move by the prosecution. Here's the problem for the prosecution, though, is that there are major grounds for appeal, and Chauvin is going to appeal. He'd be a fool not to. In the appeal, as Andy McCarthy lays out in the New York Post today, the appeal is going to be based on a variety of factors, including, obviously, the fact that the jury was not sequestered. That is the big thing right there. The jury was not sequestered. And Maxine Waters and Joe Biden are both going to be part of the appeal. They're both going to make it into the appeal. Maxine Waters and the President of the United States. And here's why. So you know that Maxine Waters, and we played the clip for you a couple times, where she said, we want a guilty verdict and not manslaughter, or we're going to be confrontational. All right, you heard her say that. You may have heard yesterday the President of the United States came out and say he was praying for a guilty verdict. No, the president should only be praying for justice, not a guilty verdict. He shouldn't be trying to influence the justice system. He's the president. He should not be involved in that at that moment. Now, if it's a federal offense, which it was not, well, then he has the ability to pardon him if he thinks justice was not served. But this was not a federal case. But he shouldn't be praying for a particular verdict, guilty or non-guilty. I mean, just imagine if Donald Trump was out there praying for a not guilty verdict. The president shouldn't be praying for the jury to go one way or the other. They should be praying for justice, impartial, blind justice. That's it. And the idea that a president's praying that an American citizen who, under our system of law, is presumed innocent, right? The fact that the president is praying for him to be found guilty is very troubling to me. As a guy who loves civil liberties, very troubling to me. Derek Chauvin, up until the moment that the jury found him guilty, was an innocent man. You understand that, right? In our system of justice, all that entire process was the state trying to prove a claim, a charge. That was it, to an innocent man, until he's found guilty, in which he's no longer an innocent man. So here's the President of the United States telling the nation yesterday he's praying for a guilty verdict. One of his citizens is on trial for his life, essentially now, the rest of his life. And under our Constitution, he's supposed to be innocent with the presumption of innocence, and it's up to the government to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. There's the president praying for a guilty verdict. So does that make the appeal? You're damn right it does. Absolutely it does. As Andy McCarthy writes, for all the downsides of Trump, Trump never took matters to the point of jury intimidation, as the paternally unhinged Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters did over the weekend. The jury may have returned a verdict Tuesday finding him guilty of all charges, but as the judge noted Monday, and we played that clip for you yesterday, Waters' inflammatory language offered Chauvin grounds for appeal. Because of her, it isn't over. McCarthy's a former federal prosecutor, and he's very busy today. Otherwise, he'd come on the show. But I'm going to share his thoughts because he's been in court lots of times, put away the blind sheik after the World Trade Center bombing. This is a guy who knows trials and knows the law, knows the appeals process. He says Waters checked every box. As a federal representative from a California district, she traveled to another sovereign state, Minnesota, to interfere in its judicial system. Her rabble-rousing was done in violation of a curfew that the elected mayor had imposed to suppress the rioting that followed the tragic accident killing of Duante Wright by a police officer. And her remarks can only be interpreted as an incitement to violence, one less ambiguously provocative than the other Democrats who were out there screaming about impeaching Trump. She's a member of Congress. She has no immunity, you understand, against Minnesota's criminal laws against obstruction of justice. McCarthy thinks she should be investigated for that. This is not freedom of speech, you understand. This was her trying to interfere in justice. This is obstruction of justice. Jury tampering. These are serious offenses. It's not freedom of speech, what Maxine Waters said. Now, he writes here, remarkably, rather than distance themselves from the egregious conduct, the nation's leading Democrats are piling on. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insisted her fellow California Congresswoman has nothing to apologize for. President Biden waited until the jury was deliberating to make the stunning public statement that he is praying for Chauvin to be convicted. The fact that the jury was sequestered when Biden spouted off is no excuse. He's a lawyer and a former Senate Judiciary Committee chairman who knows full well that sequestration of the jury does not make jurors impervious to prejudicial publicity. Let me say that again, because it's a very, very important point. Joe Biden knows full well that when a jury is sequestered, it doesn't make the individual jurors impervious to prejudicial publicity. They can hear stuff too. They might be sequestered, but they hear things. And they might have heard, oh, the president is praying for a guilty verdict. Our president. And if he's been following the case, as the president claims he's been, he knows that trial judge Peter Cahill has pleaded that public officials stop commenting on the trial. We played that clip for you yesterday, too. The judge said, I really wish politicians would just shut up about this case. So McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, concludes now, it does not matter how you hoped Chauvin's trial would end. Our viability as a free, prosperous, rule of law society is dependent upon the viability of courts as the protection every one of us equally can rely on against overbearing government and politicized mobs. In fact, due process is essential if we are to hold the guilty accountable, including police officers who abuse their power. Chauvin's case is more complicated than much of the coverage suggests on key issues of intent and causation. But his conviction now has a real chance of having the result overturned because public officials who knew better have recklessly undermined the integrity of the trial. And then he writes this, and I think this is a brilliant point. How is it that the left grasps the fundamental need for due process and the presumption of innocence when a foreign terrorist is on trial for mass murdering Americans, but not when an American police officer is in the dock? It's a great point. It's a great point. If you want to be consistent, In your defense of civil liberties, that means you have to believe every person is innocent until proven guilty. And you have to pray for justice and only justice. That's not what President Biden did. 855-839-1210. That's why grounds for appeal are there. Okay, we are doing nonstop talk, and we are live from the Cherry Hill Volvo studios, or Volvo, or how do you say it with a Delco accent? Volvo. What did Darth Eskin correct me yesterday? Volvo. Volvo.
It's more like Valvo.
Valvo.
Like Valvo.
Well, all I know, Dawn, is that we are live from the Cherry Hill Volvo studios.
Not Volvo.
Volvo.
Valvo.
And we're very proud of that fact. I'm honored, by the way, honored that they sponsor our studio naming rights. I really am. Because they're wonderful, wonderful people over there. And right now they're doing their spring special. So April, the whole month of April, they're going to have a special on previously enjoyed Volvos. Great.
Nice.
Because, yeah, and you know what? You get unlimited mileage from the initial data service, 5-year warranty, and the cars are like new. I mean, they go over every single inch of that car. So if you ever dreamed of owning a Volvo, but, maybe it was out of your price range, now's the time. Now's the time with their previously enjoyed Volvo special right on Route 70 in Cherry Hill. Look, they stand by us. We don't have government funding putting up big billboards for us. We got to rely on our wonderful friends, our advertisers. That's what Judith Krupnick and her amazing team do for us. Talk about stepping up. As I look behind me, and there is the Cherry Hill Volvo studio sign. Beautiful. Honored.
Nice.
So please go and visit them today on Route 70 in Cherry Hill, where relationships matter at Cherry Hill Volvo.
WPHT, HD, WOGL, HD3, Philadelphia. An Odyssey station. The revolution will be broadcast. This is the next generation of talk. Now, this is 60 minutes of nonstop talk with Rich Zeoli.
All right, so there's obviously a lot to analyze with all of this, clearly. And I'm trying to do my best to give you lots of different angles to think about today throughout the show to keep it interesting to you and think about different things. But I just want to quickly, before I go to Dawn for news, I want to say that Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, in her snarky way, and good for Kristen Welker for pushing her on this point. So this whole point of the president praying for a guilty verdict against an American citizen who's supposed to be enjoying the presumption of innocence, which I believe is jury tampering. If I were Chauvin's attorney, and I'm not an attorney, but if I were, and I were his attorney, I would say that his entire appeal should be based upon the fact that the jury was not sequestered and that they saw riots and protests after another police shooting, and they heard politicians, including the President of the United States, say that they hope for a guilty verdict. And they heard a member of Congress say that if they don't get it, there'll be confrontation. That'd be the basis for my appeal right there. And I'd say I want a new trial. Now, whether or not my client would get a new trial, I don't know, but that would be my argument. And you know what? The one thing I also will tell you about our system of justice is the appeals process is a very important part of it because it's got a lot of innocent people out of prison. I'm not saying he's not guilty. What I'm saying is the appeals process has gotten a lot of people out of prison who shouldn't have been there in the first place. I believe in our system of justice, but it's flawed. It's deeply flawed. Sometimes juries don't get it right. I support it because it's the best system there is, but sometimes they screw it up. So you have to have an appeals process because you need sometimes judges to oversee what happened there in the case justice was not served. If I were Chauvin's attorney, I would absolutely appeal this. They're going to appeal it, and I'd base it on what I just said. Anyway, so yesterday, Jen Psaki got pelted with questions about the president opining on this verdict in the middle of the jury deliberations. Cut 9.
Go ahead, Kristen. Thank you, Jen. Just to follow up, the president has talked about the importance of an independent judiciary. Why is it appropriate for him to weigh in on the verdict, even though the jury is split?
I don't think he would see it as weighing in on the verdict. He was conveying what many people are feeling across the country, which is compassion for the family. What a difficult time this is. What a difficult time this is for many Americans across the country who have been watching this trial very closely. The jury is sequestered. That is different from where things stood just yesterday, and he noted that in his comments as well.
He did call for the right verdict, though. Why is it ever appropriate to have any type of characterization before the jury has a say, especially for the
Again, we're going to wait for the jury to come to their conclusion, and that is when he will have more extensive remarks about the outcome.
So snarky, honestly, just truly snarky. Look, I will say this again, and I'll say this again because it's very, very important to say, all right? Just because a jury is sequestered is no excuse. Biden's a lawyer. It's Andy McCarthy, a former Senate Judiciary Committee chairman who well knows that sequestration does not make jurors impervious to prejudicial publicity. And the point that Kristen Welker's making, and good for her, Delco native, Dawn, right? Kristen Welker?
Yes.
She's from here, right?
I believe. Is she Tina Fey and Kristen or both? Yeah.
I don't know.
Did she call her hun or anything like that? Didn't do that, right?
I don't know if it's Delco, but she's definitely from here.
She's around.
I don't think she's from Delco because she actually went to Germantown Friends Academy. So I think she's from the city.
Maybe she's from far away Jenkintown.
Oh yeah, I forgot that yesterday.
She was great. She was a great caller yesterday.
That was awesome.
Snarks over there, snarky Saki. I think Kristen Welker's questions are great, even though the audio stinks, but I think her questions were great, Dawn. Good for her for pushing back, right?
Yeah, I give credit to Germantown Friends, and then she went to Harvard. Then she was at NBC 10. You may remember that.
Now, who else is going to Germantown Friends?
No.
No.
Not. I have somebody going to Germantown Academy.
Oh, right, Germantown Academy. It's hard for me to keep all these elite private schools.
Hey, my kid's on scholarship, okay? We cannot afford that school, but it's an amazing school, so we're psyched.
I love it. Well, good morning, Dawn. How are you today?
Good morning. There's so much going on. I have to choose.
Zioli Show News. Here's Dawn.
And good morning, Zioli Show News, sponsored by Exergen.
Sorry.
Sponsored by Exergen. Accuracy matters.
Why did we play that?
I don't know.
It's a 1983 relic. It literally is from, it's from 1983.
Well, when we decided to go to when Dawn made us go to mornings and ruined our life, we decided to start making fun of morning radio, and that was one of the first things we did. That, and remember the slide whistle?
Oh, God, how can I forget?
Look, let me tell you something.
What?
I spared all of us. They would have brought in somebody who's like from wherever, from someplace that's not here.
Yeah.
It would have been horrible.
Well, we tried that, and it failed.
Yes. So, say that, Zioli, you answered.
How would that affect us in the afternoons?
No, you answered the call of duty.
Yeah, that's what I think too. By the way, when the history books are written, that's how I view it.
To come to the morning.
I stepped up and did the right thing,
did.
So I thought.
You did, but then the pandemic hit,
and then COVID hit.
Yes,
freaking COVID.
Well, we have a lot in the news.
You know what, Dawn? I think I'm becoming a COVID denier.
No,
listen, hear me out.
No, you're not.
I think COVID was the Chinese got it out of a lab to keep me from succeeding in mornings because they wanted to get me.
It was
It's
all
all about you.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, listen. In reaction to the big story, the big Zioli story, the guilty verdict, the only thing I will add to that, because we're adding perspectives, is the reaction from friend to the Zioli Show, FOP Lodge 5 President John McNesby, who said of the verdict, the criminal justice system worked. The jury's verdict was fair and just. We call for calm. We hope our officers across the city and nation will be safe. I thought that was the perfect statement.
I agree. John McNesby, well done. Lodge 5, FOP, well done.
So we continue to hope everybody will
That's
be
a good
safe.
statement by our friends over there.
And many business owners are just saying they're taking down the boards today, and they're relieved, a sigh of relief that everything has been peaceful. The Inquirer, a headline there, they're talking about after the high demand for hard-to-get vaccine appointments, because everybody for a while was, I've got to get my appointment. Now everything has changed, and appointments are not being filled. Because people aren't going to get the appointments because of the J&J situation and this hesitancy. So now there's this shift, especially in Philadelphia, to say, please get your vaccine. These are safe. And we're talking about the Pfizer and Moderna as we wait for this Friday's announcement about J&J. But already in Europe, Europe is going to return with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but just give a warning that some people, 1 in more than 1 million, may be at risk for blood clots, and it may or may not be associated with that vaccine. I want to get to this new study on sleep that says, you need your sleep. So it's an extensive study, 25 years, more than 8,000 people, but it's a study of people 50 years old or middle age. Okay, so that was what was interesting here. They didn't study teenagers because we all know teenagers sleep a lot. But people in their middle age, maybe 50-ish, don't get a lot of sleep. So what does that mean? It means that if you're not getting at least 6 hours of sleep every night, you're going to pay later. You're much more likely to gain dementia.
Awesome, Greg. We got that to look forward to.
Oh, my God.
Fantastic. So let's think it now. We're cranky now.
Yes.
We're gaining weight because our cortisol levels are off the roof because we're not getting enough sleep.
Yep.
I'm irritable around my children, and eventually I'll have dementia.
Yes.
Awesome.
So
thanks, Dawn.
There was a prominent
#thanks, Dawn.
There was a prominent morning man who once said that morning radio takes years off of your life, and I'm starting to agree with that.
Well, the good news is, Greg, you'll forget eventually.
That's not fair. No.
It's a sin.
Sorry.
Was I worried?
I'm going to get a memo about that.
I know. Just exercise,
just
be
a
well.
Joke. It's just a joke.
History on this day, April 21st, 1926.
Oh, my God. You're getting good with that.
I love this. They're going to take it away from me, Dawn. I'm going to come in Monday. It's going to be gone. They're going to be like, we had to do a hardware, software update. Oh, man, I love this.
You know, for the USO or a fundraiser, you should find a way to release that so somebody could have it on their phone, that they could just do what you do, like in conversation. Just do the little, sound effects. Like release that little board,
I love
created. Anyway, on this day in history, real quick, April 21st, 1926, Queen Elizabeth was born. So today, happy birthday, Queen Elizabeth. 95th birthday, first time in more than 70 years without her husband, Prince Philip, by her side. And by the way, her favorite cake every year, the chocolate Genoise birthday cake with a ganache all over the top and through the center, which brings me to yesterday, an important day for pot brownies and pot parties. Yesterday, the unofficial cannabis holiday, known as 420. So in Pennsylvania, hundreds gathering for a pro-pot legalization rally. That's Governor Wolf's big thing because he sees it in New Jersey. He wants those tax dollars. So Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman was on the steps of the state capitol celebrating.
Was he high?
Cannabis.
Probably he was high, right?
No word whether he was toking.
That dude loves his...
He loves weed.
He does.
He is. Fetterman loves weed. And also calling the cops on black joggers. Remember that story, Dawn?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he wants to be, I guess, what would be the ad? The stoner for state senator? I don't know.
When he runs for Senate, they're going to bury him because of that. The guy, racial profiling right there. They're going to bury Fetterman over that.
Yeah,
I should talk more about that at some point.
Yes. So trade up any non-contact thermometer for a $5 rebate toward an Exergen Accuracy Matters. Published research showing non-contact models miss 5 out of 6 fevers. Upgrade to Exergen, the only forehead thermometer proven accurate by published clinical studies. Visit Exergen.com. Real quick, the NBC 10 First Alert forecast, sponsored by National Railroad Passenger Corporation. So we have a first alert in effect for our entire area, noon to 5 today, due to these thunderstorms. Could be severe gusty winds, a rapid temperature drop. We go from 70 to 50 this afternoon, so be safe. And tomorrow in the 50s, sunshine, near freezing tomorrow morning, by the way. So it's really a cold day tomorrow, especially the morning. But Friday we pop up with 65 degrees and a lot of sunshine. So this is sponsored by the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, Amtrak. Whether you're craving a breath of fresh mountain air, an exciting new adventure, or just some free babysitting from Grandma, Amtrak can get you there. With more than 500 destinations across the country, everything you're missing just an Amtrak away. This is Ziola Show News Live.
Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate it. The big story of the day today, of course, obviously is a reaction to the Derek Chauvin conviction. Big story brought to you by our friends at LL Pavorsky. Our buddy Lee Pavorsky is the man. He'll help you find beautiful, beautiful jewelry from the Dawn's Faves collection, the Zioli collection, and Dawn's Faves. Look, Mother's Day's coming up. Get your wife, your mom, your girlfriend, whoever, a beautiful necklace, some earrings, a great, great selection just for you. Just go to llpavorsky.com, llpavorsky.com. Look, Maxine Waters is a nut. The woman's she's a nut. She's a gaslighter. She's going to be part of Chauvin's appeal. She's the reason why the guy may ultimately end up going free. I mean, there's a very strong possibility that Derek Chauvin's appeal will be taken very seriously and that, they may declare a mistrial and he may have to get a new trial. It's very possible. I'm not predicting that's going to happen. I'm telling you that it's a real possibility. Andy McCarthy believes that. So the people that have criticized Maxine Waters for threatening the jury and for then depriving Derek Chauvin of his constitutional rights to a fair trial, well, she responded to critics of her, people who've said that what she said was wrong. Cut 17.
I'm so sorry that it causes pain oftentimes with my colleagues. Many times they're in these districts where they're frightened, where they have a lot of racism, where they still haven't moved to the point where they can have a decent conversation about these issues. And sometimes it's very difficult for them, but they stood up with me today. They put me up for censure because of my visit to Minneapolis. And my colleagues stood with me and they voted to table the motion that was put up to censor me because the Republicans love to use me as a target. They raise money on my backs. That's that Maxine Waters, that black woman who is so uppity and who is someone we can't control. And so you've got to make sure that I have enough money to keep her from getting reelected. And I keep getting reelected. And these poor people, many of them retirees, they keep giving them their money. They don't seem to understand. They're not going to get me out of office. I'm here until I decide to retire.
Nobody's going after you because you're uppity. We're going after you because you're a nut. You're a nut, and you interfered with justice over this in this trial, and you're going to be part of his appeal, so congratulations. And if he ultimately walks, it's because of you. 855-839-1210, 855-839-1210. Nobody was going after you. They were going through a course of censure for you, just like they censured the president. Remember that? They wanted to... Actually, they impeached him for his comments. You led that charge. Remember that? You led that charge. You led that charge many, many times. You're out there always stoking things, Maxine Waters. Always stoking things, people like you.
Impeach 45!
Yeah, that was you. That was you.
45.
Always with the stoking and the gaslighting and everything else. You keep getting reelected in your district because it's a safe Democrat district. And talk about poor people. How are poor people in your district doing, Congresswoman? Not good, by the way. Not good. 855-839-1210. All right. You know what I got to do, though? I need a vacation. I need a break because, well, this is a horrible shift. It's inhuman. This is inhumane is what it is. It's all Dawn's fault. Shift. Hashtag Dawn's fault. And one of the ways to refresh yourself, to just feel better, is to go away for a couple days to the Oceanfront Grand Hotel of Cape May. That's right. Cape May, New Jersey is one of the most beautiful beach towns in America. I love it. The Victorian homes, the history, it's great. And the Oceanfront Grand Hotel is the most beautiful resort hotel and conference center you can find. Perfect place to bring your spouse, even the whole family, to just escape from the daily grind. They offer a variety of guest rooms, suites, even townhouses, so you have all the personal space you need with all the accommodations and amenities of a full-service resort like an indoor and outdoor pools, restaurant, nightclub, arcade for the kids, fitness center, so much more. Now, here's what you got to do, okay? Because I know there's a lot of ways to book hotels, but please, book directly with them for the best rates. You're going to get discounted weekend and midweek packages, and the longer you stay, the more you save. So, for example, they have a June and July 3, 5, and 7-night packages. Longer you stay, longer you save. You can stay for a whole week in their townhouses. They're great. Call today, ask how to get up to $70 a night in grand money. Grand money that can be used in Hemingway's restaurant, at their outdoor pool bar and beach concessions, and also in the gift shop, including pier passes for all-day amusements at Maury's Pier in Wildwood, and passes for a whale-watching boat cruise. To book your stay at the beautiful Oceanfront Grand Hotel of Cape May, call 800-257-8550, 800-257-8550, or visit them online at grandhotelcapemay.com.
You're in the middle of 60 minutes of non-stop talk. This is the Rich Zeoli Show on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Okay. It appears the phones are broken. So let's do this.
What?
On my own accord, I, Rich Zeoli, the host of the show, would now like to, on my own personal accord, on my own decision, my choosing, I would like to hear Delco accents. Because I freaking had it. I've been talking about Chauvin for 2.5 hours now.
Yes.
And I want to take my head and smash it against that glass over there. So I'm going to turn to Greg Stocker for this, Dawn, the executive producer of the effort.
What's on the cut sheet?
So yesterday we had a very spirited discussion about the Delco accent. Kate Winslet, who is in the mayor of Easttown. By the way, if you're not watching it, you should watch it on HBO.
Oh, but can I also jump in and say Susie?
Yes.
Our buddy Susie Cool watched it.
Yes.
At your recommendation, she loved it.
Yes.
And she also said Guy Pearce, and he's great.
He is.
And she said Kate Winslet does a really great accent.
So she was on Entertainment Weekly, and she said that the Delco accent is in the top 3 hardest accents she has ever done in her life, including Germany and Polish.
German, Polish, and Delco.
So we had this discussion yesterday, what the Delco accent sounds like. So I took some examples from some Philadelphia natives who are now famous, and some people who actually aren't from here, to hear what they think a Delco accent sounds like. Let's start with Kevin Bacon, who was on with Conan O'Brien. Kevin Bacon, obviously from Philadelphia. This is Kevin Bacon on Conan.
It's a weird accent because nobody really does it, like people don't do, you don't grow up hearing it in movies. You hear Boston, you hear New York, everyone grew up with, whatever, The Godfather and, all the Scorsese stuff. But Philly is like rarely done. And I always like to have a conversation between two guys where he's going, hey, where are you going for lunch? Oh, I'm going down to Wawa. What are you going to get? I don't know, hoagie and a Coke. Really? What kind of hoagie? I don't know, cheesesteak hoagie, maybe, peppers and onions. What you're drinking Coke? No, I mean diet. What, Diet Coke? You on a diet? No, I'm not a diet. I'm just drinking Diet Coke.
There's a movie right there.
That is
the opening
That's
scene.
great.
Right?
Yeah, he
Really
does
good.
a really good. I mean, that was good.
He does. So my second example I have is Bradley Cooper in 2011 when he was promoting The Hangover, one of the Hangover movies. He was on with NBC 10, one of our local affiliates here, and he did his example of a Delco accent. This is his example of a Lee's Hoagie commercial and how it sounded to him and his friends.
Because the Philly accent, the template for the Philly accent is the Lee's Hoagies commercial. It was like, do you remember that? It was like,
I don't remember that.
Like, we're your regular family. We watch the Phillies on TV. We go down to the Jersey Shore. But when we want great hoagies, discount prices on beer, and a great atmosphere, we go to Lee's Hoagies in Horsham, PA.
Great, right?
That's great.
Yes.
By the way, Bradley Cooper's an Avenger. He plays Rocket, the raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's great.
Yes, Pride
he's
of Germantown.
funny as hell. Very talented actor. That was a good accent.
Yeah.
So let's go over to somebody who is not from here, Sienna Miller. She was in 2019, I believe. She was in The Loudest Voice on Showtime, the story about Fox News and Roger Ailes. She played Roger Ailes' wife. So Jimmy Fallon asked her about doing the Pennsylvania Philly accent because I guess Roger Ailes' wife is from around here, and this is her example of it on Jimmy Fallon from 2019.
Do this accent, is it Philadelphia?
It's like a Philadelphia, like a Mason-Dixon-esque accent from Philly. So there's Pennsylvania is weird because the closer you get to the Mason-Dixon line, the more it goes.
No, but do something. I do like.
No, but you always have to have a word that's like an in for an accent.
What's the word
so
for
I was
you?
walking around the set going poster, boat, poster, boat.
Poster.
Boat.
Boat.
I'm going poster, boat.
Poster, boat. Poster, boat.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. I think Cooper and Bacon have her beat, but, it was good.
They're also from here.
Exactly. They're also from here.
James McAvoy was in one of the M. Night Shyamalan movies. I'm blanking on which one. One of the most recent ones. So he had the Philly accent down when he was on SNL in 2019. This is a skit about Charmin. This is his adaptation of what a Philly Delco accent sounds like.
Anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the commercial was actually pretty good, but what about something like this? Bear wakes up after a night of raging, right? And bathroom's completely destroyed, like Chernobyl. And Bear's like, if that's what's on the walls, what's the deal with my So he checks it, he's totally clean, the Charmin's done its job, Charmin.
Okay, wow.
So that's James McAvoy. He's from Scotland. So that was his adaptation. The last one we have this is probably the best. This is from Upper Darby Zone, Tina Fey. This is the famous Revolutionary War skit that they did right before the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl in 2018. And this is Tina Fey.
The delegation from Philadelphia.
Yeah, how yous doing? We crossed many waters up the Schuylkill River to give all yous a message. Philly's mad strong. From the little babies to all our moms and pop-pops, we's ready to fight.
Yeah. We'll whip a horseshoe at their head and send the British home.
Yeah. So grease up them poles, because Philly's gonna win, and then one of these guys is gonna punch a police horse.
Which actually happened.
Your spirit, Philadelphia, but you don't exactly have a history of winning battles like New England does.
Yeah, well, that was then. This is now, okay? Call us the Eagles, because we're ready to fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
The Eagles?
Yeah, and like Eagles, we Philadelphians are swift, we are deadly, and our eyes are all a little too close together.
Yeah, and we got the best food.
Yeah, hand me that, Charlie, hand me that. I brought venison hoagies, porridge stuffed peppers, and corn fritters from Wawa. Wawa's an Indian lady that lives just outside of Conshohocken.
Nice. Yeah, that was good. That was really good. I remember when she brought Pika's Pizza and ate it on Jimmy Fallon's show.
Yes.
I love Pika's. They're awesome.
Agreed.
Wonderful place.
Agreed.
Great place.
So out of all of those...
So out of all that, Dawn, who do you think did the best accent?
Well, Tina Fey's was, because she's from there. She's so funny, but I loved Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
I would say Kevin's my favorite, even though I give Tina
You
props.
give Kevin Bacon. Okay,
Yeah.
Stalker, who do you say?
I'm going Bradley Cooper.
You're going Bradley Cooper?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, well, this is great because I actually agree with Dawn. Kevin Bacon takes the cake by far. And he's from here, too. And, the Bacon family, they're great people. I mean, everybody knows them, so good for them. And I love the fact, too, that he's married to his wife their entire life.
Yeah,
For like 40 years they've been married.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because most people in Hollywood are a bunch of creeps, you know what I mean?
He seems like he was, when I was with CBS 3, he and his brother came in, they were going to be interviewed, and the elevator had been out. So they walk in the lobby, and meteorologist Tom LeMaine goes, "Oh, great, are you guys here to fix the elevator?" Didn't recognize him.
That's awesome.
So funny.
That's great. Let me do a little Twitter check-in. Sue would like to know, can we have Andrew Cuomo doing a Delco accent?
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's a
brilliant.
big request right there, my friend. I don't know if I can pull that off. I'm not sure. I got to think about that. And Mrs. Rushell Baby it reminds me, don't forget to do Springsteen. I wonder if Springsteen can do a little Groundhog Day. Every day is like Groundhog Day. Would that kind of be like that, maybe?
I mean, he spent a lot of time here. I mean, his career was basically built in this part of the country. So you would think he could do this accent.
And every time he goes on TV, he acts like he's from the South, the deep
South.
South of Jersey, South Jersey, below the Mason-Dixon line. There's a chapel in the middle of nowhere. I like to go there and pick up my manure. The greater Chris would like to know why I'm not talking about the trial. Very good. Excellent. Well done, Chris. Well done. So thank you for that check-in on social media brought to you by our friends at Cherry Hill Volvo, where relationships matter. They really do matter. And please go visit them on Route 70 in Cherry Hill. So Kevin Bacon is the winner of our Who Does the Best Celebrity Delco Accent. I love it. That's great. Fantastic. Now I got to do like Bernie doing it, Megaphone Bernie doing a Delco accent, and Cuomo doing but not today because my head hurts. No, it really does. My head freaking hurts. I need some aspirin or something like that. Or I wonder if let's see.
But who knows about cocaine?
Well, maybe that's good work. That could also help with my. So yesterday I was on Newsmax TV and I had a great time, as I always do every week on the panel. It was funny because the three of us on the panel, none of us had ties on. We all looked the same. It was kind of like a little joke, but it's really entertaining stuff over there. I've said to you for a long time, cops are good people, and I'm not going to let the actions of one bad cop affect how I view the brave crime fighters who put on the uniform and the badge and the shield and risk their lives for us. I mean, it's a tough job, and we got to support them. I'm not going to play this game that the left plays, and you also have to understand that the number of cops killed in the line of duty has jumped almost 100% since last year. And Newsmax TV is all over it. Greg Kelly's fighting back. Greg Kelly on Newsmax TV has a special series called Cops Under Fire, where he exposes the real threat to the police and to you. Now, I watch Newsmax TV and I like it. And they're standing up for our brave men and women. So watch Cops Under Fire with Greg Kelly tonight. Newsmax is in all the major cable systems. If you don't get it, call your cable system. Tell them you want it. Get Newsmax TV for free on most smart TVs, Roku, Pluto, Xumo, YouTube. Newsmax TV, the 4th highest rated cable news channel in America. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Hey, I'm Peter Bukowski, host of the Locked On Today podcast. Trying to stay on top of every big story in sports is a full-time job. I know, because it is my full-time job. But it's not yours. That's why we have a network of local experts ready to give you the inside scoop on everything you truly need to know in the sports world. And we do it every day to make sure you're always caught up on the latest and greatest in sports. Listen to the Locked On Today podcast every day on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.